However, it can only be done, being that it's only allowed for Yom Tov, so that also tells us that it's only for that day and not for the next day, because it's for Yom Tov for today, not for the next day. Especially the second day of Yom Tov is not, according to the Torah, there's only one day of Yom Tov. So if someone, let's say, is cooking on the first day for the second day, according to the Torah, it's only one day of Yom Tov. The second day is a weekday. So you're cooking on a Yom Tov. The Torah allows you to cook on Yom Tov for Yom Tov, not for the next day. However, as we discussed yesterday, even though you're cooking for the next day, but if it's going to be ready, it's going to be edible on that day that you're cooking, according to the Torah, it's okay. Why? Because it's possible that guests will show up and you need more food. So it is for Yom Tov. So being that it could be eaten today, so according to the Torah, it's okay. But the Chachamim, our sages, came along and prohibited and said, no, you cannot do this. We don't want you to exert yourself on Yom Tov without purpose. Yom Tov is a day of rest, not to do malacha for what? It's not for today. Don't do it. Wait till tomorrow. But it goes beyond that. So yesterday we discussed about malacha, but it goes beyond. Even if it's not malacha, even if it's just preparing stuff, there's no malacha involved. You are setting the table on the first day for the second day. You're not allowed to prepare from one day to the next. However, yeah.
No, I have a question. So basically, the one day of Yom Tov, how many was matzah the last day of Pesach?
I missed, you said matzah the last day of
How
Pesach.
she like wet matzah with something. The last day of
Wet matzah last day of
Yeah.
Pesach? Oh, you're asking a different question.
Yeah.
Okay. Called gebrachs. So we don't eat wet matzah the entire Pesach. It's gebrachs. It's a chumrah, it's a stringency. And the last day of Pesach, we are lenient and we do eat gebrachs. Not only we eat gebrachs, but many Chabad is that we specifically make sure to eat gebrachs.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So maybe we'll discuss another class. But yeah.
Back to the cooking thing. So we can, like, I didn't really understand. You are allowed to cook on the first day or the second day if it's going to be ready on the first day.
According to that's
Like, I don't
I hope it's not get, and not everyone's getting, hope you're not all getting confused about this. I'm trying to make a distinction between what's according to the Torah and what's rabbinic. A lot of things according to the Torah, it's okay, but the Torah gave power to our sages to enact whatever they think is necessary, whatever makes sense, for whatever reason, whether it's a precaution that we don't transgress in the Torah or for other reasons. So practically, you cannot cook on the first day for the second day, even if it's going to be edible.
You can't. Okay.
You can't. Now, this year, you have Eruv Tavshilin.
Right.
So now you could cook on the second day for Shabbos, but it has to be edible on that day. Okay, so we're saying you even just doing preparations, any type of preparation from the first day to the second day, from the second day to after Yom Tov, you cannot do any preparation. So that's why when it comes to second Seder night, it usually takes longer to prepare. And it doesn't starts later than the first night. The first night, everything is ready from before Pesach. Comes the second night, you can't start setting the table, do anything until it's dark. Now, this year, because we have an Eruv Tavshilin, so now we're allowed to cook on the second day for Shabbos. So now, not only could cook, it's not just for cook, because cooking, we're desperate, need to cook. The way we explain Eruv Tavshilin is because we need to cook. Chacham said, we're allowed to cook, make Eruv Tavshilin, you need to light candles. But it's not, but once you have the Eruv Tavshilin, you can do all preparations that have to do with food on the second day for Shabbos. So second day of Pesach is on Friday. So on Friday, you could set the table. You could do anything that has to do with food, not other things. Things that are not with food, you cannot do. Anything with food, you could do this year on the second day of Pesach, Friday, or Shabbos. Yeah.
On the second Seder night, when can we start setting up and
You can't set up until it's dark.
until it's
Even
dark?
with Eruv Tavshilin.
But the second night of Pesach. Eruv Tavshilin is allowing you to cook on the second night, to cook and do all preparations for food starting from the second day of Pesach, Friday, which starts Thursday night, practically. I mean, it's not you're busy with the Seder, but I'm saying theoretically, you could start cooking on Friday, which is Thursday night, for Shabbos, and all preparations you could start doing on Thursday night for Shabbos. You're asking about the second Seder night, which is Thursday night. Could you do preparations before? So we're saying no, you have to wait till it's dark.
And what about, and the cooking?
Cooking,
No cooking, the second night, the second day of,
second day, first, I think you
no, the second day night, so you can't cook during the day
you
that
can't
day.
cook on Thursday, the
Right.
first day of Pesach for the
For
second
the
Seder.
second, because it's another day, because it's the night.
Correct.
So what do people do? Or they have the food from,
You can't, you have food before.
from before, and when it gets dark, you warm them up.
People usually prepare for 2 days. People have enough. There's no way you could, there is ways how to do it. We're going to talk about it, but it's not. Actually, we did mention, yes, we could go it over. There are ways you could do it, but not, yeah.
Like when you said, like, you could add more chicken to the pot.
Exactly. So there are ways, meaning, but okay. So we'll discuss it again. Basically, but it's not the usual because can you cook on the first day for the second day? Answer is no. However, if you are going to cook before the day meal, and you're cooking for the day meal, and included in that, you're also going to add more food. Let's go through, let's, one
For the
second.
day meal of which
Let
day?
me. Okay, so here are the ways how you could cook. Let's go in order. One way is, we said, if you cook it all at once. Let's say you fill up a pot of spaghetti and you put it all on once on the fire, but it has to be before the day meal. That's what's important. You're doing it before the day meal. So day meal means the actual day, first day, and you're doing it for the day meal and also for the night, and you're doing it all at once. In other words, there's two parts over here. Yesterday we emphasized that it has to be all at once. I don't know if emphasized before the meal, maybe I did say it, but there's two parts over here. There's two important points over here. One is they doing the malacha all at once. If it's, let's say, a pot of spaghetti. If it's meat, then even if you're doing it for tomorrow, you could add more for tomorrow because it's going to make the food taste better, but it has to be done before the meal. In other words, if, let's say, the meal is over, you already had the day meal, now you want to cook for tonight. So you're saying, oh, I can't cook for tonight. I have to cook for today. I have to do for today and one action for today and tonight. So I'm going to cook now a pot of spaghetti. It's going to be for now and for tonight. It's one action. We said before you could do it. But because it's after the day meal, it's not, no one is eating now. It doesn't make any sense. So you don't really need to eat now. So therefore, that's not allowed. Unless a person really needs to eat. If a person really needs to eat, then you could. So actually, okay, so I went a little out of order because it was coming up, but because you asked, I started going, and I went a little back and forth. So I may have confused. Let me just put everything together in a straight order. I started saying it has to be done before the meal. Okay, that's actually, it's called haram. I'm going for the water here, so something called haram, which means a trick. Remember we spoke about haram, the trick?
No.
Okay, that is like this. When I was saying it has to be before the meal, that's in terms of this. So let me just recap everything. Whatever we discussed yesterday, if you do it all at once, it's okay. Or if your meat, you can even add on to the fire. If the meat that's cooking is for Yom Tov, and then you're adding more for tomorrow, that's okay. Why? Because it's going to make the meat from today taste better, right? That doesn't matter when. That's if you actually need the food you're gonna eat it today. Actually, you want to eat now. Doesn't make a difference before the meal, after the meal. Okay, let me just make that clear. But I started saying before the meal, that's something else. That's in terms of harama means a trick. I mean, according to one opinion, you could cook for today and tomorrow, even if you don't need the food from today. In other words, till now we spoke about the cooking for today and tomorrow. Now I'm talking about now something else. I don't need food for today. I'm just going to cook for tomorrow. You're not allowed. So you say to yourself, oh, so I can only cook if I need to eat today? Yeah, I want to eat today also. You don't really need to eat today, but you're saying you're going to eat today also, and you will, but you don't really need to eat it. You're going to eat today so you could cook for tomorrow. You get it? So that's called harama. It's called a trick. It's a kosher trick. The Chacham allow it, according to one opinion, Alter Rebbe accepts it. Alter Rebbe says it's better to avoid it, but it's accepted, meaning someone could cook whatever we described before, whatever the same will apply also in a situation. Well, it's not going to apply to adding. It wouldn't make sense for adding. We spoke about if you have meat for today, adding for tomorrow. That's not apply and trick. And now it doesn't make sense because that's when you want meat. You get what I'm saying? So you're doing it all at once, but you said it's okay if it's for today and tomorrow. But you don't really need the food today, but you will eat from it today. So it's accepted. One could do it if one wishes to take that lenient opinion. One could cook it all at once, even though you don't really need any food today. It's just for tomorrow because you will eat from it. And being that you will eat from it, so you're going to eat from it today. The Torah allows you to cook on Yom Tov if you're going to eat from it. So that must be done before the meal. If you're doing this harama, it has to be at a time where it makes sense. It's before the day meals, even though in terms of do you need the food? No, you don't plan to eat the food. You don't really need the food. You're just eating it to be able to cook it. But it doesn't matter. If we're the opinion that's allowing it to say, we allow you to do it, but it has to be done at a time that people are eating. So yes, you have enough food to eat, but you want to eat it. And that's the time people eat. It is a time when people eat. It's before the Suda. So that's why this is allowed. You get it? But the Alter Rebbe says a God-fearing person should avoid doing it. It's accepted, you can do it, but it's best to refrain. Yeah.
Do we need to do like a proper meal for eating like the? Yeah. Like
No.
we need to-
What I'm saying is, whatever we discussed about cooking it all at once, and we said it's okay, if you're cooking it, but you don't really need the food, but you can
Yeah.
eat from it. So doing it before the day meal, you're having the Suda, let's say 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, it has to be done before the meal. So you can have it, so you're going to eat from it during the meal. Then it's kosher, it's okay.
What if you have a non-Jew that's helping you cook? Do they have time limits of when they can do things?
Could you ask a non-Jew to work for you on Yom Tov? Is that your question?
Yeah, like you have someone that's helping you cook, and like they want to make the food for tonight that's starting before the second one.
So generally speaking, anything that you can't do on Yom Tov, you cannot tell a non-Jew.
It's gonna be easier on them, so they don't have to rush between that time, and they say, "Oh, I'd rather start early." They do that.
Okay, she's asking a good question, but I need more detail. So what are you telling them? The
You're
non-Jew,
just saying X amount of whatever food for tonight, and that they know, okay, whatever I need it done by tonight.
1 second, they're cooking, for today you have food, right?
Yeah,
So now you tell them, we need food for tonight.
right.
So you're telling them to cook on Yom Tov for tonight.
No, but and you explain to them like, okay, the food for tonight, like we should be cooking it that, but they have like a lot to cook, and they choose themselves so that
You explain them what? What do you tell them? What time is it? Give me very specific.
it's like, okay, like let's say it's before the meal of the first day,
Okay.
but you're saying
And you
like,
tell them, oh, we need food for tonight also.
yeah,
Okay.
and you give them a list, you write it all down.
You need all this, so you're asking them to cook today for tonight.
No, you're just letting them know what you also need for tonight, but it's before the first meal. And then they on their own decide to cook it.
Oh, okay, but
Because it would be easier for them.
But
told them
so
choice.
really depends, it is a bit of issue, depends on what they're cooking. Because they should be doing it generally, anything that you can't do, you can't tell the non-Jew. So therefore, could you do it before the day meal? Well, if you do it all at once, has to be one action because you don't really.
apply the same to us.
Whatever applies to you will apply to the non-Jew. You'll have to tell them how to do it. In other words, it's a good question. Theoretically, they could do it all at once. I'll tell you what, if you.
Isn't it something about if they think if it's easier for them?
Yeah. I'm thinking about if, in other words, right. In other words, if there's a way they could do it in a permitted way, correct. You don't necessarily have to tell them do it this way. In other words, whatever they're cooking, if it can be done in one shot, like meat, whatever, filling up spaghetti, filling up the pot. But if they're peeling vegetables,
Right, like if they on their own are like, oh, you told me I need 100 potatoes tonight, or 5.
yeah, but potatoes
It's
is
individual.
every one is a different malacha.
Right.
So now they're not doing one malacha just. The whole idea, what's the whole idea of the arama? The arama is that you can't do work for tomorrow, you can do for today. I'm doing it for today, and it's one action, and it's also for today. But when they're peeling, every potato they're peeling is a separate malacha. So that creates an issue. If it's filling up, if they're cooking a bunch of meat,
Right.
so that could be done all at once. So being that they could do it all at once, you don't necessarily have to point out to them, oh, you have to do it this way. You're telling them to do something, thank you. You're telling them something that they could do it correctly. But if it's peeling potatoes, that could be a problem, because then they're definitely telling you to do malacha for tonight. It's every potato is another malacha. So that could be a
You have
problem.
to specify for them if not.
You have to specify. You're not asking them to do it. I mean, why would they do it on their own if you don't ask them?
I'm saying like, okay, because I'm asking because like at my Chabad house, we have like 7 meals in a row, right?
Right.
Because we've had them all of these put it out to like the staff to help. And they just see, oh, tonight we're having also mashed potatoes. And they're like, oh, I'm already peeling potatoes. So on their own, they're like, let me just peel the potatoes for tonight. Do we have to tell them to not do that?
It's a good question. I mean, offhand, my answer would be yes, because they're doing malacha for you, and they're doing it for two. Have to think about it. It's a good question. It's not so simple because there may be a leniency. It's for covered Yom Tov. There's are leniency sometimes to tell non-Jews to do things that are rabbinically prohibited for the sake of a mitzvah, for the sake of enjoyment of Yom Tov. This is a rabbinical prohibition because the food is going to be ready today. Assuming it's going to be today, it'll be ready today. It could be the leniency. I have to think it could be. Not necessarily have to stop them to think about it. Yeah. Okay. Interesting halacha over here is that okay. So this haram, you get this haram, this trick. You're doing it all at once before the meal. Has to be one action, one malacha. Now, when going back to for a moment, when you're doing it, when you actually, in the regular case, we actually need the food for today. Also, you're doing it all at once, or meat. You need meat for today. You can also add for tomorrow. Now, you're not allowed to say. You're not allowed to verbalize. Interesting halacha. You're allowed to do it, but you can't verbalize and say, "I'm cooking also for tomorrow." You could do it, but you can't talk about it. Now, this harama only helps for one pot of food. Let's say using this leniency of harama, you're going to cook, you need a lot of food for tonight, right? So you're going to cook before the day meal and do it all at once, fill up a pot of meat. There's a lot of people coming. You're going to fill up a few pots. The same food, then it's not one malacha, it's not one action. Get it? The only reason why it's allowed because it's one action, and you're also going to eat from it today. But if you're doing a few pots from the same type of food, each time put a pot on the fire, it's a different action. That doesn't work unless it's a different recipe. And if someone does such a thing, very interesting. I'm very strict. Chum said if someone does such a thing, do this harama trick with a few pots the same, you could, whoever the malacha was done for, that person, and for whom it was done, could never eat the food. They were very strict. Just like if someone cooks on Shabbos intentionally. What's the halacha if a Jew cooks on Shabbos intentionally? He knows it's Shabbos, and he doesn't care, and he cooks anyways. Now you can ask the question: what about a Jew that was never educated to, like these days, Tinnik Shanishma, right? Maybe there's a leniency, but generally speaking, the general halacha is if someone does not care, he understands Shabbos, doesn't care, and he cooks Shabbos intentionally. The halacha is that he can never eat the food, and all those who he cooked the food for can never eat the food. And here they were also strict in this situation because someone was taking advantage of a leniency of this harama and doing it incorrectly. So someone's going to cook a bunch of pots of the same food, and he's going to do it before the meal, and he's going to eat from it. But for today and tomorrow, they can never eat that food. For whom it was done for all those who was done for people who you didn't have in mind, strangers, they can eat it. But from who those who benefit from the malacha, it was intended for them, they can never eat the food.
How would someone know
How would someone know what?
that this happened?
It's not a common thing to happen. I'm just saying, but if someone does it, how would you know? Like anything else, how would you know? I mean, which I said, you're saying if someone did such a thing, you ask, do you have to worry about it when you go to people's house? No, you worry about it. Saying, yes, if you don't know, you don't have to be concerned that maybe something went wrong. You're not obligated to be so concerned.
If you said it's like in a pot if you're adding chicken, but what if you're like putting it in the oven in a tray type thing? Because then that would be more individual pieces. Does that have the same?
In a pot can also be individual pieces. What's the difference? You fill up a pot, you fill up a pan.
It's to the flavor, but when you're doing a pan, it's like each individual piece kind of gets its own. It's not all mixed together. Versus like on a tray, it's just like
You're asking that if there's chicken cooking for today, and I want to add more for tomorrow, we said it's okay because it gives better taste. So you're asking, but if it's in a tray, it doesn't actually add more taste. Good point. If that's actually the fact that it's not giving a better taste to the food from today, then you cannot add for tomorrow. But you could fill up the pot. You make sure you put all the chicken into the pan and then put it in the oven. So you're doing one action. Right? Okay, now using oven in Yom Tov in general is another a discussion for itself. Using an oven, there could be questions with opening the oven, closing it, the thermostat. That's a different discussion. There's Yom Tov ovens. I mean, but with special modes that saying there could be an issue, but that's another discussion. So going back to the Eruv Tavshilin, we spoke about the Eruv Tavshilin. In order to be allowed to cook and bake and light candles on the second of Yom Tov for Shabbos, the Eruv Tavshilin. Now, what about if you are eating at someone else's house? So then, if you are eating at someone else's house, and where are you sleeping? You're sleeping in your apartment and eating at someone else's house, then you're not automatically included with their Eruv Tavshilin. Not necessarily could they have you in mind because you're not staying with them. You're not part of them. You're just coming to eat there. Where you're lighting Shabbos candles in your apartment. Okay, let's say, I don't know, actually you're eating in the dorm, right? Okay, so let's say you're lighting in your apartment in the dorm, and you're eating somewhere else. So you're eating the meal somewhere else. So because you're eating somewhere else, could they have you married with Eruv Tavshilin? No, they can't. Because you're not part of the household. You have your own apartment. You're just eating there.
But for what would they need to have?
You need Eruv Tavshilin to light candles.
If we would light there?
No, you're lighting in your own apartment. Even if you
so for what you're saying they didn't have it in mind for the Eruv Tavshilin.
So I'm talking about if you're lighting in your own apartment. If you're lighting in your own apartment and you're eating there, they can't include you with Eruv Tavshilin because you're not.
Meaning we need to do our own in our
right.
Right.
The same thing is also, let's say a lot of times it's families, they go eat by the parents. and they sleep in their apartments. They can't be included in Eruv Tavshilin. They have to make their own Eruv Tavshilin. If they're staying there, then even then, the Baal Bus has to have them in mind to include them. So they're not automatically part of the household. But the person is married, has his family, and he's staying there. She has to tell the Baal Bus to have him in mind with Eruv Tavshilin. But if you're sleeping somewhere else, you have your own apartment, and you're eating here, then you can't be included with Eruv Tavshilin, especially because you're lighting candles in your own apartment. Now, you asked the question that I have to look into. What about if you're lighting candles in the apartment that you're going to? So you're eating there and lighting candles there. That could be different. I have to look it up. That could be different. Maybe for the lighting candles in that apartment, you could have them have you in mind. But if that's all you're doing. But for sure, they can't include you for stuff that you're doing in your own apartment. You want to cook water there. So you're going to have the Baal Bus who you're eating by have you in mind. What's the connection? Your apartment is here and you're eating there. So you're eating there. That's not your house. That's not, can't include you. Now, if let's say the Eruv gets lost or it gets eaten up, we said if it gets eaten up, then you can't do anything. So what happens by mistake? You took the chicken or the meat that was Eruv Tavshilin, you put it in the refrigerator. Now we said you should put a sticker that says Eruv Tavshilin. Let's say it was eaten up. Now comes Friday, you want to cook and bake and light candles. There's no Eruv Tavshilin. So what do? So this is called the Einus accident. It's an accident. It happens. It's not your fault. So over here, you could rely on the Eruv Tavshilin of other people. Shulchan Aruch is described as the Rav of the city has everyone in mind. But in reality, the way it's now, most people do Eruv Tavshilin, they say that this Eruv Tavshilin should allow us and everyone who lives in the city. The idea is that just in case someone forgot and didn't do Eruv Tavshilin, or in this case, he did Eruv Tavshilin and it was lost, it was eaten up, so now he's included with Eruv Tavshilin of the Rav, or in Crown Heights, everyone does Eruv Tavshilin. Most people, if you do it like it says in the Siddur, that's what it says. It should be permitted to us and all those living in the city. So officially, if you read the words, he's saying this, that through this, everyone in the city should be able to, but it doesn't really include everyone. Yeah, everyone has to do their own. It's in case something happened, they'll be included. But if, let's say, someone forgot to make an Eruv Tavshilin, you're supposed to ask a Rav what to do. Why? I just said you included. So the Rav is going to, so if it's the first time you forgot, he's going to tell you, yeah, it's okay, you can rely. But if it's the second time, for sure the third time, it becomes a little more, it's not so simple. Because it's only because it was an accident. It's a shaking, inadvertent. But if it's already the second time, then some opinions will be strict and say it's already the second time. You're not responsible. You forgot once, and the second time you should have put notes and make sure and really put into your mind to not forget. Some will need all those. The second time, the different opinions. But I'm just saying this is something that if it comes up, you have to ask another question. What do I do? Could I cook now? Could I light candles? And in the case where a person cannot, if the answer is no, happened so many, happened a few times, and you're not responsible, then the person cannot actually light candles for Shabbos. You can't cook, you can't do anything, you can't even have someone cook for you, because it's your food. You have to give them the food and give it to them, and they pick it up, becomes theirs, and then they cook it, and it's their food. And if they're nice enough, they'll let you eat from the food. So it's something that isn't usually, it's not a common thing to happen to, usually a person forgets, it's not, they overlooked it, the Rav will tell them it's okay, but if it happens more than once, the answer could be, no, you didn't make any Tavshilin. You can't do any melacha with food on the second day of Yom Tov. Shulchan Aruch does speak about that, but the Eved, person could cook one dish of food, like just the basic necessities, and light one candle. But these days, even to light one candle is an issue, because the reason why Is everyone following this? In other words, we're discussing, let's say a person isn't that, not really so practical, but we could go to the next topic, really. Should we finish this? We're saying that if a person, let's say the Rav answered him, the answer is that you're responsible. There's no Eruv Tavshilin for you. You can't cook. You can't do any malacha on the second day now for Shabbos. So I said you can't do anything, right? But the Shulchan Aruch does say we do allow just the basics, like one day, one food, something, and one candle. So I'm saying the one candle these days is really doesn't apply. We allow one candle because one candle is basic. You shouldn't sit in the dark. But these days, right? So these days, even a candle is going to be an issue. You want to be able to light candles. Okay, so now we continue with the Seder. And up to here, we'll be starting from, here it is. Okay. You cannot start the Seder before it's dark. You may know from other situations that people will sometimes take in Shabbos earlier, make Kiddush earlier, but the Pesach, the Seder, you cannot take the Seder in earlier because the 4 cups you must drink when it's dark, just like the matzah. The men recline when they drink the wine. The women do not recline. When you're listening to Kiddush, well, actually, let me rephrase that. By Kiddush, you have 2 options. One option is to hear Kiddush or to say your own Kiddush. What does that mean? Everyone has 4 cups, so you have a cup for Kiddush. Now, should you say your own Kiddush or should you hear Kiddush? It really doesn't matter. It's either or. Either you can hear Kiddush or you can say your own Kiddush. However, if you're going to hear Kiddush, it has to be that the one who's saying Kiddush has you in mind, like all the time. It has to be one person saying Kiddush, not 10 people together, because then you don't hear anyone. So I don't go to other people's houses. I don't know what goes on, but my understanding is that everyone says Kiddush on their own. The men are louder, the women are not as loud, but everyone says Kiddush together. The women have to be careful and remember not to say Shechianu in Kiddush because you already said it in candle lighting. So if everyone is saying it together, what happens is when it comes to Shechianu, the men are saying Shechianu, and the women are sometimes waiting because they want to be polite. They want to wait till everyone finishes and then sit down and drink the wine. So don't be so polite. If you finish Kiddush and the men are still saying Shechianu, just sit down and drink the wine because you're not supposed to interrupt between the Kiddush and the drinking. You finish Kiddush, sit down and drink the wine. When you begin Kiddush, look at the candles. It says Friday night, when you start Kiddush, the one who's saying Kiddush is supposed to look at the candles. So the Rebbe says that Yom Tov should also be the same way, because generally the laws of Shabbos and Yom Tov in regards to Kiddush are the same. So the Rebbe brings out that even when you're saying Kiddush the night of Yom Tov, you should also look at the candles when one begins Kiddush. Now usually it's not relevant to you because you don't make Kiddush. The night of Pesach, you're saying Yom Kiddush, so when you begin Kiddush, just for a moment, look at the candles. After Kaddish goes Urchatz. We wash our hands because we're going to be dipping the onion in salt water. And in general, all year round, when we eat wet foods, wet from water, not from fruit juice, water, grape juice, wine, olive oil, you're supposed to wash your hands like you wash for bread without a bracha. Now, I'm going to say a lot of people don't do it. The reason why there's no bracha, because there is a lenient opinion that says you don't have to. But the ideal thing is, the proper thing is that whenever eating something wet, it's wet from water or grape juice, wine, or olive oil, and milk. Yeah, milk. So it's going to be something else. So then you have to wash your hands without a bracha. The same day you wash for bread, you wash your hands. Now you have to make sure you don't say a bracha. This is the challenge. So people don't do this all year round, especially are prone to say a bracha by mistake. So now what happens a lot of what could happen is, you say a story once, there was someone, he was reminding everyone not to say a bracha. And now when he washed, he said a bracha. Why? How did he forget? If he was reminding everyone, because it's a habit. You wash your hands and you have to stop moving, you start saying the bracha. So it's not even like it just happens automatically. So what I say is, what can help, it sounds funny, but practically that's what works. Instead of saying to yourself, okay, remember not to say bracha. I'm going to remember not to say bracha. I'm remembering. I'm remembering not to say, while you're saying the bracha, you're also remembering not to say bracha. So the focus should be to keep your mouth closed. The focus is, you don't focus on not to say bracha, focus on the position of your mouth. Keep your mouth in a certain position, and then you won't say the bracha. Now, if someone does say the bracha, so if you begin the bracha and you say Baruch Atah Hashem, you just say Hashem's name. So there's a pasuk in Tehillim, you say Baruch Atah Lamdeinu Chukecha, right? In Kuf Yates, yeah, there's a pasuk Baruch Atah Hashem Lamdeinu Chukecha. You ought to say a pasuk with Hashem's name. So if you said Baruch Atah Hashem, and you realize to just say the words Lamdeinu Chukecha. Now, if you go further, usually it's not so practical, because the next step would be if you say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokei, but you didn't say Elokeinu, you just said Elokei. So there's a pasuk we say in davening in Pesukei Zimra, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokei Yisrael Avinu Ma'olam Adolam. Usually it doesn't happen. Baruch Atah Hashem Elokei, you already said Elokeinu. So, but if you said Elokeinu, then it becomes an issue. Now, if you said, this is something that I want to double check, because it could be that it's not correct, but this I have to double check. And what I'm going to say now is like this: if you didn't start the bracha Sheki Deshani, just say Elkeinu Melech Ha'olam, then again it's possible that if you see food, if there's food around, you just finish say Breda Priya Eitz. Let's say you said Elkeinu Melech Ha'olam, and then you realize, what am I doing? You can't correct it anymore. So you didn't say Sheki Deshani yet. So you look around and you find something they can eat. But I have to check. It could be because when you get the bracha wasn't in front of you. I have to check if that's correct. Once you already start a Sheki Deshanu, for sure, there's nothing you can do. You finish the bracha. Now, what do you do now? So the Rebbe says you should eat the matzah. Proper thing is to go. Many opinions say, when you say a bracha in vain, what do you do? You say a bracha in vain, what do you usually do? Baruch Shem Ben B'Slavad, right? The Rebbe writes, the Rebbe says you don't want it to be a bracha in vain. Baruch Shem doesn't make it that it's not a bracha in vain. It's just that it's the best you can do for now. Say Baruch Shem. You want to avoid there should be a bracha in vain. So the Rebbe says you should actually eat the matzah. And there's a whole discussion. The Rebbe said it was by the same table, and then the Rebbe said something a little different. The Rebbe said you should look into it. It's a whole big thing. So if this does happen, the proper thing is to eat the matzah, but the proper thing is also to wash again without a bracha. Wash again without a bracha, yeah. And then eat the matzah, just the matzah. Now, before the matzah, you didn't break the middle matzah yet, so you have to break the middle matzah before you say hamatzah. You're going to break the middle matzah, because that's usually done afterwards. It wasn't done yet, and then you go back to the way up to the seder, wherever you're up to, and then you go to the mar. So after matzah goes mar. Okay, so matzah. And then you go back to up to hey lachmanya, whatever, yeah. The onion and salt water. You didn't do the onion and salt water yet. That comes next. We should have learned the whole seder first. Then it's a little confused. You don't know what. Yeah, it's before the onion and salt water, right? So we didn't do onion and salt water with it. Now you're going to do the onion and salt water, but you're not going to say Adama because you're middle of a meal. You don't say Adama middle of a meal, so you can dip onion and salt water without the bracha. And then you do the whole seder. until you get to Maitzi Matzah. Now, you already did Maitzi Matzah, so you go to Mar. That's when you have to Mar, and then the sandwich. But then you should wash again, but you should wash again without a bracha for the sandwich. This interruption, so you're washing again because you're having matzah again. So you understand very clearly that it's not worth this whole thing. So when you wash your hands, keep your mouth closed. Okay. Have a good Shabbos, everyone.
It's not the best thing, Shabbos.
You don't wash before Maitzi Matzah? You resist that. Without a brush.
Stuff it, you should wash them again. No,
Before Maitzi Matzah, you said Kodesh, you don't wash.
Hey, what's that? Wait,
Why?
you did already.
You did, but you didn't wash. You washed before Karpa.
You wash for karpas, right? So what do? You wash again.
So I thought you were supposed to wash again before Maitzi Matzah because you resist that.
I said that.
Oh, you did?
You
I thought you said before
later.
Kodesh.
Now again, that's the third time.
Thirdly, you should wash before Maitzi Matzah and then again before
You
Kodesh.
wash without a bracha, right? You wash. So washing, you said a bracha, right?
Like by Karpa.
Right. So what are we saying? So what do you do?
Yeah.
You should wash. So you can do matzah. So you should wash again without a bracha.
And then again by Kodesh?
Now there's such a big hefsek. So when it comes to kodesh, wash again without a bracha. There's heschadas. You know.
If there's Hesach Hadass, then why don't we wash again by Kodesh? Regular with?
No, I'm not just saying that. Yes, Magid. Magid takes a long time.
From Maitzi Matzah till Kodesh isn't such a long time. So you wash before Maitzi Matzah, and then you have to wash again before Kodesh.
No, we're talking about if someone washed that happens and made a mistake.
Okay, so when do you wash again after Karpa?
What would have to make a mistake? So what does he do? He eats the
You
matzah.
eat the matzah.
Eats the matzah, and now he goes back to karpas,
Right.
and he's doing magid, which takes about an hour, right?
You have to wash
And
again.
then, but now when he finishes, now he's going tomorrow. Now he's going tomorrow. You already did make some
Well-
matzah.
But you have to wash before Maitzi Matzah.
What do he already washed it? Let's see. He
Again, when do you wash?
washed.
many times do you wash?
He made a bracha, right? By mistake, right?
By Karpas, that was an hour ago.
Right. So now he's gonna eat the matzah.
Yeah.
Now he's gonna wash, but he's gonna wash the second time again without a bracha.
Good.
This wasn't the kavanah for the matzah.
What's the washing by Kodesh?
Now he's doing now he's doing magid. Magid takes a long time, right?
Oh, you're saying it doesn't. Oh, you're saying Maitzi Matzah, not Allah say that. By Karpas, you're saying you
Yeah.
do Maitzi Matzah.
But you know, say now he's coming to. He did magid now, right?
Right.
He did matzah,
Did Matzah.
and then he went back.
Then you went to
Then
Karpas,
he went to karpas,
then Magid,
magid.
then
Now-
Mara,
Now he's up to mud.
and then you wash for Kodesh. I understand.
I mean, if you should wash, it's better to wash again without a bracha because it has